Thieving bully demands I take him home in order to give him my fundraising earnings. I comply, and it works out beautifully for me. By username yesterday 1836. I was in middle school in the 90s. I loved growing up then, and even though there were gangs in my area, I generally avoided trouble. One of my classes had this big field trip planned, and they had us selling chocolates to raise money for our trip. I was pretty good at it and was selling at a good rate. So I would take the bus, public transportation, to school, and my stop was about 2 blocks from my home. I got off at my stop one day with my box of chocolates, and there was this older kid around 16, 17. Pretty big for his age hanging out there. He saw me and came towards me. This guy is clearly a gangbanger. Peso comes up to me and says, "Hey homie, where you from?" He was asking what gang I was from. It's not the first time I get challenged like this, so I just reply, "I don't bang, man. I'm just a junior high kid." Peso looks at my box of chocolates and takes it from me. "What's this?" I tell him it's nothing. It's something for school. He opens the box and sees a bunch of dollars in there. He grabs the bills, around $15 of my sales for the day, and takes a bunch of chocolates as well. "Tomorrow, you're going to give me $20 more. If you don't, we are going to have a real fucking problem." I walk away feeling scared and pissed off. I realized I'm going to have to pay back the lost money from my birthday money, and I definitely didn't want to give this guy any more money. I think about it and decide I'll get off at a later bus stop from now on and walk a little more just to avoid this guy. The next day, this is what I do. I stuff my box in my backpack just in case, and I exit about 2 stops later. I don't see the guy and think I have solved my problem. Then I get to the liquor store a block away from home, and who do I see but this overgrown idiot Peso. "Hey man, you didn't forget about me, did you?" I said, "Look man, I don't have any money right now. I don't even have my chocolates. I left them at home. I shouldn't have said that, okay? Let's go to your house and you're going to give me the money or something else if you don't got it." I begin getting real nervous. My mom is at work and my grandma is home. I definitely don't want to bring him home with her there. I glance at him and notice the tattoos on his arms. At this point, I saw the perfect opportunity for malicious compliance. I tell him, "I don't think that's a good idea. Why don't you just let me go?" And Peso grabs me by the collar and says, "I tell you what to do and you fucking do it. You understand?" I nod my head and tell him to follow me. Now it's time to give a little background. My neighbor that lived in the house next to mine was a veteran of one of the biggest, most notorious gangs in the city. He was in his 40s and a real chill dude. He loved my grandma because she would often share plates of food she made with him and his wife, and he was fond of me because I taught his 80-year-old boy how to play baseball. His son had a disability, a problem with one of his legs, so most other kids wouldn't play with him, but I often did. Let's call my neighbor Og. Og always had a bunch of guys over at his house. He made sure they never caused problems, and they were all respectful towards my family in particular. Back to Peso. The tattoos on his arms. I realized he was from the same gang as Og. I have a big smile as I'm walking home, and Peso asks me, "Why are you smiling, pendejo idiot?" I say no reason and keep walking home. As we get closer, I see a bunch of guys hanging out at Og's house. Peso narrows his eyes, then smiles as he recognizes some of the guys. We get to Og's house, and Peso says, "Wait here, pendejo. Let me talk to my homies." Og is sitting on his porch, and Peso starts greeting some of the guys, and then heads towards Og and greets him in a reverential manner. Og notices me and says my name. "Hey up. What's up?" Peso turns to look at me, and I say, "Peso told me to wait here. I have to go home and give him money." Og stands up and says, "Why do you have to give him money?" I say, "Because he told me yesterday at my bus stop that the $15 in chocolates he took from me wasn't enough, and I had to give him more today." Peso begins to speak. You know this kid Og. Og gives him the scariest look I've ever seen and tells him to shut the fuck up. Og looks back at me and asks, "Is this from the chocolates you were selling?" I said yes. Og asks me how many chocolates I have left to sell. I say about 50. He tells me not to worry. Peso is going to pay me for the 50 I have left, plus 20 for the day before, and an extra 50 for my trouble. He tells me to keep whatever else I sell. He tells me to go home, and Peso would be back later with my money. About an hour later, there's a knock on my door, and Peso has an envelope and says, "Here's $120, little homie. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Do you have Nintendo? I brought you some games." I just stood there stunned and thinking how I never would have guessed that getting robbed had so many benefits. I didn't see Peso too many times after that, but whenever I did, he would wave at me and never bothered me again. Boomer got malicious compliance on me. By user odd zone 4359. Warning, this is holism. This is also a throwaway account. Anyone who knows me will be able to ID me from this story. I have a hobby that I turned into a small bossiness. It's not a lot of money, but it's kind of nice, and it's a thing that I enjoy doing. Over the last 5 years or so, I have developed a reputation as a man of my word and someone who provides a great product at a fair price. I live in an area that has a lot of vacation homes around a lake. These homes are owned by people who have $500 or more to spend on having a place on the lake to go on weekends during the summer. And Mary and Steve were two of these people. Mary and Steve own a couple of business. They are known for treating people fairly. Even people that they have fired will tend to acknowledge that they had it coming. Mary stopped by my shop back in September. She wanted to hire me to do some work for them, for Steve's Christmas gift. I could do what she wanted me to do. I gave her a price tag of $5,500. She agreed instantly. We shook hands and I went to work. I got it finished up December 20th, just in time. I had to take a few days off from my regular job to make it happen. Mary was thrilled at the results. She went to get me a check and she wanted to write it out for $11,000, double what we agreed on. I declined, telling her the $5,500 was what we agreed to, and that's all I was going to take. On December 26th, rolls around, and Steve shows up thanking me for his Christmas gift, gushing over the craftsmanship, then complains I wouldn't take the bonus money that I was offered. I explained to him Mary and I agreed on the price, and we shook hands on it. A deal is a deal. Steve says to me, well, at least let me buy you and your GF dinner. 21 times he had a big shit-eating grin on his face.
I should have known he was up to something. I thought about it, thinking local restaurants, and agreed.
Then he said, my choice. Any place I chose, all on my dime in hindsight. This should have clued me in to the fact that he had something up his sleeve. I smiled, laughed, and said, okay. The entire month of January went by. I didn't hear anything from Steve and Mary, which is fine, we're not exactly in the same social circles. At the end of January, all of a sudden my GIF just got super happy. Like giddy, I knew she had a secret she was keeping from me, but I wasn't sure what. She told me pack my bags for a Valentine's Day trip. We would be gone for 10 days and bring my passport.
We would leave on the 10th of February, 19 days ago.
We got to the airport, and who would you guess was there? Steve and Mary. I was shocked as shit. Steve said he had a debt to pay, and he owed us 21 meals at a time in place of his choosing, and he chose Rome over Valentine's Day. I tried to say no. He threw my words back in my face. A deal's a deal. The four of us spent the next week in Rome, Italy. Steve and Mary paid for our flights, hotel room, and 21 meals.
All of our tours and transport was on us. We got back home on the 22nd of February. We had a great time.
A friend charged a tow fee because he wouldn't trust my automotive knowledge. By user Brew 3017. Back in the early 2000s, my friend and I were at a bowling alley. As we went out to leave, he couldn't get his car started. I asked if he wanted me to look at it since I've been working on cars since I was 14. And he said no, that he knows as much, if not more, about cars than I do. So the tow truck arrived. They asked me to steer as they pushed it out of the parking spot. I got in, put it in park, started the vehicle, backed it out, and asked the tow truck driver if he wanted me to drive it onto his flatbed or if he wanted to pull it up. Everyone, including the tow truck driver, burst out in laughter. My friend was livid. Why didn't you tell me that was the problem? I said you told me you were more experienced than me and didn't need my help. From then on, he never doubted my automotive knowledge. This is not a mistake. By user affectionate, Yam. 886. Last year, I was ordering an upgrade for the server room at work. It was a large, expensive upgrade that cost over $500,000. If you have ever had to call a manufacturer to order equipment at this amount, you may know that once you get a good reputation with a manufacturer, they tend to cut red tape for you to maintain a good working relationship with your company. I in the past have bought equipment for my personal use at home, and it takes forever to get a rep on the phone, and they often screw you on the deal. While I was making the order with the manufacturer, I inquired about getting personal equipment to see if it would be possible to make a separate order for myself with my own money. The rep had no issues with it and was happy to make the second order. He placed both orders and even gave me a company discount for my order. Now, I did make it perfectly clear that the second order was a personal order and not in any way connected to the corporate account or order. He confirmed this, and the order was locked. A few months went by, and the equipment showed up in the loading dock at work, and everything was in order. However, my order never arrived at my house. I attempted to contact the manufacturer, but got put on hold for hours. I gave up for now and figured I would try again in a few days. The next morning, the equipment showed up. It was an exact match for the equipment that was sent to my work. Now, keep in mind the order I placed for my house was a blade server that was just over $6 gust. This was not what I ordered. I went into panic mode as I can't afford this equipment, and when they bill me, I will be screwed. I checked my bank account and found no charges yet. No, I'm really panicked as now I think they billed it to my company, effectively double charging them. I expect I will get fired. When I returned to work after my weekend, I emailed billing and got a copy of the invoice.
Well, they didn't bill my company for the equipment sent to my house. Now I'm really confused.
So at this point, I drop it. It is a pain to get them on the phone, and I can't call the corporate line when it's a personal order. A month later, I got an invoice in the mail with a late charge for failure to pay. Okay, now I can get this fixed. I see they want $6, $250 for the late charges. That's odd. I called the retention number and got a rep. I gave her the account number and she told me she needed to transfer me to a manager due to the amount. Okay, cool. The manager picks up the phone and I try to explain the bill is wrong and the equipment they sent wasn't what I ordered. And he immediately cut me off with, "You need to pay the invoice. You're in violation of the contract and we will sue you if you don't pay it immediately." I tried again to explain the equipment issue, but again, he cut me off and demanded I pay.
So I told him I would take care of it then. I said sorry for being an inconvenience and I will call my bank right away.
I then confirmed the bill amount and the part order number for my equipment labels. He confirmed it and said, "See, there was no mistake." And as I was about to hang up, I know I heard him say in a smug tone to someone else, "That's how you deal with poor dickheads." Called my bank and got them to unblock the transaction. It was stopped for fraud alert. The amount was paid. I am now the owner of a $500,000 server room in my basement. A few months later, I had to order some more connectors for the fiber lines and spoke to their rep again. I inquired about buying personal devices again, since the last time went so well. Apparently, they can't do that anymore. Something about a manager fraud investigation. Can't imagine what that's about. Before 9 and after 5 don't matter. By user ladder, station 2328. I worked for a large brokerage firm in their mutual funds division. My duties included working on special projects for the controller, coordinating with the users on any issues that needed to be addressed, and working on automating all processes. I loved my job, and I was real good at it. As I had these various tasks, I had 2 computers so that I could run the programs that I was modifying while still working on other tasks. As I stated, I loved the work since I basically did what I wanted to do with minimal, if any, supervision. Due to this, I regularly came in early, sometimes as early as 7, and staying as late as 7 p.m. I easily did 2 to 3 times the work of anyone else. I was always the first one in, and generally the last one to leave. One day I took a lunch break, which was also rare as I brought my lunch and worked straight through. Unfortunately, I had some errands to run and I ended up getting back after taking an extra 10 minutes. I was summoned to my manager's office where he reamed for an hour over these 10 minutes. I had enough of this and I asked him if he realized how early I got in and how late I stayed. His answer totally blew me away. He said it doesn't matter how early you get in or how late you stay. Only what happens between 9 and 5 that counts. Cue malicious compliance. I stopped going in early. I would take a walk or read a book until 8:55 am. I would take a break mid-morning, take exactly 1 hour for lunch, and another break in the afternoon. I would stop work at 4:45 p.m. and clean my work area. Exactly at 5:00 p.m., I would shut down my computers and leave for the day. He never said anything about this, that he knew he brought it on himself. All that resulted from this is he lost over 5 hours of work a day from me. Not long after this, I left for brighter pastures at an increase of total compensation of almost 100. It was possible as I went to a very high-scale investment firm. Later on, I found out that they had to hire 3 people to do my work. Like they say, you don't know how good you have until it disappears.